12 spine-chilling tales of sinister neighbors. Every night he got closer to the cursed secret. Alice craned her neck to look at the house next door, its dark windows looming like the hollow eyes of a skull, watching her every move. Maple Grove had always felt safe, but now fear licked at the edges of every lawn and flower bed. Who could forget the recent disappearances? Pets were vanishing, and Alice's heart raced as she remembered the whispers echoing around the neighborhood, tales of shadows lurking just beyond porches, waiting for the right moment to strike. Every evening she tucked her 8-year-old son, Sam, into bed, reading stories filled with laughter that helped chase the shadows away, but soon, those shadows crept too close. The creaks and thuds from Mr. Wilkins' house next door grew louder and more unsettling. Formerly a police officer, he'd become a recluse, a ghost drifting through their lives. The gray curtains never parted, and the light never shone. They were never friends, just two mothers watching over very different children in an increasingly sinister world. One dark night, while Sam lay asleep, a shattering glass interrupted the stillness. A soft pop as her porch light burst into 1,000 little shards. Heart racing, Alice glanced nervously at Mr. Wilkins' darkened window. What if he had seen? A lump formed in her throat as she caught sight of him standing there, a shadowy silhouette that seemed to pierce through her very bones. She stumbled back, a chill crawling up her spine, and her breath hitched. As if the atmosphere thickened around her, she sensed the distance growing, smothering her with loneliness. Each smile from the neighbors seemed to hide their own gnawing fears. Reports of missing pets scuttled through the town like skittering insects, and scratches marred her own door. It felt like a warning. Her instincts screamed the man next door wasn't just peculiar, somewhere deep inside, she believed he was the predator cloaked in her worst nightmares. Then, horror sparked when she discovered colorful toys scattered across her yard. They were buried in the dirt like mementos left behind by children gone too soon. A half-buried photo emerged, and her stomach dropped as she recognized the missing child, one of those eerie stories that had only been folklore in her mind. Panic rose like bile in her throat. Mr. Wilkins had to be involved in all this. And just when she thought it couldn't get worse, the night the power went out struck. It happened with a sudden jolt, plunging her home into an oppressive darkness. Grabbing a flashlight, Alice could practically feel the fragile threads of her security unravel. Then there was a knock at the door, a sound that sent a shiver through her veins. It was not the friendly distraction she hoped for. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With trembling hands, Alice peeked through the peephole, dread knotting in her stomach. There he stood, Mr. Wilkins, faceless in the darkness, his voice slithered through the door like smoke. I know what you've been hiding, Alice, his words twisted around her mind, embedding a root of terror deep inside her chest as cold sweat broke across her brow. In that moment, everything crashed down. What secrets flowed between their walls? How fierce would she fight to protect Sam from the monster next door? In that pitch-black silence, her courage began fading with the last flicker of hope, and she pondered what lay beyond the door. Alice's mind raced as her breath quickened, each heartbeat a loud drum echoing in her ears. The darkness pressed against her, thick and oppressive. She swallowed hard, knowing she had to make a choice. Should she open the door and confront the darkness, or retreat into the safety of her home and call for help? Mr. Wilkins knocked again, louder this time, sending a jolt of fear through her. His voice cut through the silence like a cold knife. You think you can keep your secrets from me? You have no idea what I know. The panic surged. Her thoughts spiraled. Did he know about the toys? About her suspicions? About Sam? Her instincts screamed for her to protect her son, to keep him hidden away from this threat wearing the mask of a neighbor. Alice felt paralyzed, a war within her raged between fear and the instinctive drive to protect Sam. She took a deep breath, trying to steady her nerves. Another knock sounded, more insistent, more demanding. The wood of her door rattled, the frame creaking under the pressure of that unnerving visitor. "Don't you want to know the truth?" he asked, the words dripping with mockery. She pressed her back against the wall, trying to render herself invisible. "What do you want?" she shouted, mustering all her courage. Her voice cracked, betraying her. "Just a little chat." His tone was menacing, and it wrapped around her like a snake. "I've been waiting for you to return the favor, Alice. You can't ignore what's right next door." The chilling realization hit her again, he was watching her. Watching her every move, waiting for a slip, a mistake. Panic clawed at her throat, but it also ignited a spark of defiance deep within her. She could not let him have that power over her. She would not give him the satisfaction of her fear. "I don't have anything to say to you," she called out, her voice steadier than before. A cruel laugh followed, echoing in the night air. "We'll see about that. You're far too curious for your own good, Alice. So many questions, so few answers." His laughter faded, swallowed by the darkness that wrapped around her home. Alice's heart raced, pounding against her ribcage like a caged animal desperate to escape. Glancing at the faint glow of Sam's nightlight filtering under the crack of his bedroom door, she felt the need to protect him surge anew. But what could she do? She needed the power back. But the weight of dread persisted, smothering her resolve. She couldn't stay cooped up in her fears. Alice stepped back, an idea creeping into her mind. If she couldn't interrupt him with words, perhaps action would speak louder. She hurriedly turned to grab her phone, but the dim light flickered, leaving a mere shadow of security behind. Suddenly, gravity shifted. Something shifted in front of the door, and she gasped, grip tightening around her phone. A silhouette. Movement. Just as she was about to call out again, her phone buzzed in her hand, the sharp sound slicing through the tension. She glanced at the screen, a message from an unknown number, the text reading, "Look outside." A paralyzing chill snaked down her spine. In that moment, dread coiled tighter around her heart than the grip of Mr. Wilkins' dark presence. She knew she had no choice. Would she face the monster lurking outside or cower in the shadows, hoping for a miracle? With trembling resolve, Alice stepped toward the door. Her heart raced furiously as she whispered to herself, "For Sam." What did the text mean? Who was watching? As she placed her hand on the doorknob, the faint sound of laughter echoed in her ears, and the suffocating tension clung to her like the darkness itself. Alice's hand hovered over the doorknob, heart pounding an urgent rhythm. The laughter from outside twisted in her mind, taunting, goading her to move. Could it be that Mr. Wilkins was right? Was she going to be locked in a battle of wits with a man who, by all appearances, was far from ordinary? Her breath hitched, each pang of fear echoing louder than before. The message lingered in her thoughts. Look outside. What was waiting for her in the abyss lurking beyond her door? With a deep breath, she turned the knob, resisting the urge to scream. The door creaked open, the familiar sound masking the terror that filled her chest. She peered into the darkness, desperate for answers. The night felt alive, shadows jittering away as the faint glow from the street lamp didn't quite reach her porch. There was nothing out there, just the whisper of the wind and the distant rustle of leaves. "Don't be silly," she whispered to herself, feeling the coldness of night wash over her. But doubt crawled deeper into her brain, entangling the threads of her thoughts. Was this some cruel game, a trap laid by a predator? "I see you." Mr. Wilkins' voice slithered through the air from somewhere in the darkness. "Wouldn't he want you to miss the show?" The chill in her spine exploded into terror. She stepped back, nearly stumbling over the threshold. "What show? What do you want from me?" The shadows seemed to deepen, pulling tighter around the house. "Oh, Alice, you're already part of it. I just wanted to show you the truth." His laughter echoed again, deeper and more sinister, as if he relished the fear enveloping her. Without thinking, Alice took a step back inside, her instincts screaming to protect Sam. But a flicker of movement caught her eye. She turned her gaze toward the impossibly dark yard, and her breath caught in her throat. Something was there, shifting between the shadows, a figure tall, lithe, watching her. It stepped forward, just outside the halo of light. Heart racing, she squinted into the darkness, praying her eyes were playing tricks on her. "Do you see him?" Mr. Wilkins taunted, stepping closer to the border of light, his face twisted by that cruel, mocking smile. "He's been waiting for you, just as I have." A voice, small yet familiar, echoed above her pulse. "Mom?" It was Sam, peeking through his bedroom door, eyes wide with confusion and fear. "Stay inside," she yelled, panic flowing through her limbs like ice water. But it was too late. The figure stepped fully into view, and Alice's breath caught. It looked like a boy, perhaps Sam's age, but there was something off. The skin was gray and stretched too tightly over its bones, lifelong shadows claiming its features. "Come play," the figure whispered, eerily mirroring Sam's own voice. "It'll be fun." Her heart dropped into her stomach. A cold sweat broke across her brow. Terror washed over her like a frigid wave. "Sam, no!" she shouted, but the boy just smiled wider, unnatural and hollow. "What would you do to save him, Alice?" Mr. Wilkins now loomed closer, his grin growing wider as he reveled in her horror. Sometimes the truth is a sacrifice. As her mind raced, a realization hit her: she had a choice to make, and the stakes had never been higher. The darkness was alive, and she felt it surging around her, eager and hungry. What would she risk to unearth the secret behind this sinister game? With dread coiling around her heart tighter than ever, Alice recalled the strange toys, the empty laughter and the boy standing against the wall, urging her to step into a darker truth. The decision loomed. Would she take the plunge, or would she watch as her worst nightmare crept ever closer? The choice hung between them, heavy as the darkness itself, as outside the shadows waited hungrily. Alice could feel the weight of Mr. Wilkins's gaze, his eyes glinting like shards of ice in the dim light. It was as if he were feeding off her dread, consuming every flicker of hope she might have had left. The laughter from the shadows swelled, an ugly cacophony that twisted every rational thought into dread-filled knots. "Mom!" Sam's voice broke through the fog of her fear, innocent yet shuddering. The figure's grin widened, its presence closing in like wrapping paper over a festering wound. She was frozen, uncertainty burning in her veins, sharpening every sense. What was this twisted game? "Run!" she screamed, her voice cracking under the strain of panic. A desperate lunge toward the door felt like moving through thick syrup. The boy copied her every movement, arms outstretched, beckoning her into the dark. "Stay inside." But Sam hesitated, caught between darkness and light. The anxious edge in his voice made Alice's heart ache. "What's happening?" The shadows shifted, whispers pulsing with malevolence. Mr. Wilkins took a step closer, his voice smooth as silk, dripping with honeyed malice. "What kind of mother are you, Alice? What's a few small sacrifices for the sake of the truth?" The hellish choice loomed more significant than ever. Did she leave Sam behind? The thought clawed at her gut. She couldn't. The figure outside stretched its limbs, a taunting imitation of Sam's posture, as if mocking her anguish. "Come play," it crooned again, darkly lyrical. "We'll be friends forever," she wanted to scream. The shadows pulsed, eager tendrils reaching toward her, whispering promises of safety in exchange for something she dared not imagine. Get inside. She knew she needed to protect Sam, fight for him. "Please." With every ounce of force in her, Alice lunged toward her son, the world around her spinning into a dizzying nightmare. But Mr. Wilkins let out a delighted laugh. "Ah, but the game has rules, my dear. The night air thickened, labored with dread suffocating her resolve. Choose wisely, Alice. We both know the prize is worth the price. He gestured dramatically toward the dark figure, the boy grinning wider, impossibly wider, as if strings were pulled behind that ghastly smile. Dread gnawed at her soul, and moments turned excruciatingly long. Things hidden behind shadows, they always come with a cost. Sam's face twisted with confusion, slowly stepping toward the door, the eerie substitute abandoning the shadows to dash forward, calling, "Mom, come play." "No!" she screamed as the figure darted past her, lunging toward Sam with an uncanny speed. The world exploded into chaos as everything seemed to blur. She heard Sam scream, a sound that pierces through the night like ice through bone, grounding her back in reality. He couldn't be taken. Time froze. The shadows closed in tighter, wrapping around her like a vice. She could hear her own heartbeat, frantic and deafening. There was no escaping the choice Mr. Wilkins presented. But if she acted, if she leapt into the darkness, would it be to save her son or seal their fates? With resolve building like storm clouds, Alice took a single, determined step forward. "If you want truth, you'll find it's bloody." She hurled those words back at Mr. Wilkins, feeling the crushing threat of darkness claw at her sanity. But even as she spoke, was it hope pushing her toward the terror ahead? Or simply a sacrifice that might doom them both? As she raced toward her son, desperate to pry him from the clutches of that shadow, a flicker of a thought flashed across her mind. What truly lay beneath the masks of those staring back at her? Fear coiled within, the dark wonder swirling around her more alive than ever. Time seemed to stop as she charged forward, knowing danger was closer than she'd ever known, and uncertainty whispered behind her, demanding to be answered. Alice's heart pounded in her chest, a thunderous drum signaling her fate. She could see Sam's terrified eyes darting back and forth, locking onto Alice as if she held the last thread of light in the suffocating dark. She forced herself to move, every muscle screaming against the oppressive air, the shadows swirling restlessly around them. "Don't move!" she shouted, panic lacing her voice. But her words slipped through the cracks of fear that engulfed them, reaching Sam too late. The dark figure raced towards him, the grin stretching even wider, a chasm of blackness that threatened to swallow her son whole. "Mom!" Sam cried out, arms flailing helplessly as he stumbled back. The laughter cracked through the night, sharper than glass. It was a sound that haunted, a sinister echo that fed on her desperation. A rush of determination surged through Alice. She had to reach him. She lunged, the ground beneath her feet feeling suddenly like a quagmire, every step an act of raw defiance against the encroaching darkness. "No! Stay away from him!" The force of her voice pierced through the chaos, her maternal instinct ignited like a raging fire. But Mr. Wilkins merely raised an eyebrow, amusement carved into his features. Save him? What a noble sentiment! He leaned into the shadows, his voice low, seductive. "But you'd need more than just a heart full of love to win this game, Alice." The distorted figure paused, a chilling mirage, and twisted slightly, the boy's face transforming into a grotesque mask. Its eyes glinted with a knowing hunger, and that laughter echoed back at her, weaving the atmosphere thick with dread. She could feel it, the darkness coiling tighter around her like vines, whispering secrets that threatened to unravel her sanity. "Let him go!" she screamed, trembling, the taste of fear bitter on her tongue. She could see Sam's face reflected in the shadows of her mind, wide-eyed, trusting. It crushed her. "Mom!" His voice wavered, torn between the call of the inky abyss and her desperate pleas. Images flared in Alice's mind, each twisted memory of Mr. Wilkins, whispers of unseen things that lurked in the corners of her life. What had she overlooked? The house, the crumbling walls that surrounded them, everything was steeped in an unsettling familiarity, each creak a reminder of the sinister secrets that had found their way back to her. "Choices," Mr. Wilkins purred, savoring each syllable. "You can save him, but at what price?" He extended a hand toward the alternate Sam. The truth comes with a delightful burden, after all. That phrase echoed like a death knell, and she felt her insides twist. What did he mean? What price was it that would demand payment in sweat and soul? "I'll do anything," she shouted, desperation boiling over in her chest. But was anything worth the cost that shadow demanded? With a sudden surge of fury, Alice dove forward again, reaching for Sam, as the figure pulled him closer. Every thudding heartbeat throbbed with urgency. This was her son, her responsibility. Sam. As her hand connected with his, electricity sparked between them, a moment of potent connection that split through the haze of terror. But a sharp voice slashed through the air, laughing wickedly. "You've made your choice, Alice. Let us see if you're brave enough for the next part of this game." In that heartbeat pause, she felt it, the web surrounding her tightening, the shadows pulling their strings. Then came the momentary silence, a stolen breath before everything shattered. The dark figure exploded into darkness, a tornado of shadow and laughter engulfing them both. And just like that, they were gone. Alice stumbled back, breathless, eyes wide, scanning the empty void where her son had stood. The air was thick with despair, engulfed in a silence so absolute it stung. She staggered, the world spinning, her mind racing to catch up. "Sam!" she yelled, the word clawing its way out raw, frantic. All that remained was the oppressive darkness around her, a cruel reminder of what she might have lost. But somewhere in that silence, a new whisper began. Faint yet chilling, it curled around her ears, beckoning her deeper. The shadows still danced, alive and insatiable, offering the choice that suddenly felt far more sinister. What lurked in those depths? What was waiting, eager to pull her down the rabbit hole? Alice clenched her fists, determination flickering within her once more. She must find Sam. Yet, as she stepped forward, the ground beneath her gave a sickening lurch. The shadows swirled again, and a voice echoed through the darkness, dripping with menace. "You think you can save him? You don't yet know what you'll have to sacrifice with every step toward the abyss." She pressed on. Would she uncover the truth, or would she become just another lost soul in a game that had only just begun? The shadows writhed around Alice, an undulating mass of despair and temptation, as she fought to hold on to the last hints of her sanity. She roamed through the dark, the oppressive air thickening like fog closing in just behind her. Every fiber of her being screamed to flee, yet she pressed onward, a desperate mother determined to reclaim her son against all odds. "Sam!" She called out into the void, the name slipping from her lips like a prayer. Her voice felt feeble, devoured by the roiling darkness, but she wouldn't allow fear to silence her. Not now. Not when she most needed to be heard. As she moved, the shadows flickered, revealing fleeting glimpses of shapes that danced just beyond the corner of her eye. Each shift sent icy tendrils creeping along her spine, as if unseen eyes studied her every move. A guttural whisper curled around her thoughts, promising salvation but warning of devastation. "You want him back, don't you? Pay the toll." "What is the toll?" Alice hissed, practically spitting the words into the air. The shadows chuckled in response, a sound that sent chills cascading down her limbs. She could barely breathe, panic invading her lungs, but the thought of Sam, of his laugh, his warmth kept her heart thumping like a war drum. More echoes clawed at her mind, muddy memories of how Mr. Wilkins had haunted her neighborhood like a depraved specter, leaving trails of madness in his wake. She remembered the stories, the lingering unease. Foolishness kept them blind, the whispers had said, filling the air with dread. They had been too comfortable, too trusting. She wouldn't fall to the same fate. With a renewed sense of purpose, she boldly spoke into the dark. "I'll find a way. I will save my son and expose you for all to see." "Ah, so brave, Alice," a voice crooned, dripping with dark allure. "But true strength comes with sacrifice. Can you handle the truth?" Alice's heart raced as images swirled around her, a vivid flash of Sam's laughter followed by the echo of his cries, writhing in the depths of despair. The darkness thickened, threatening to suffocate her hopes. "I'll do what it takes," she shouted defiantly. "Whatever it is, I'll face it." A thick silence enveloped her, and then the ground trembled beneath her feet. With a jolt, Alice lost her balance and fell, arms flailing as she plunged into the abyss. The world erupted into chaos, twisting colors and sounds colliding in a cacophony of madness. When she landed, the shadows suddenly quelled, revealing a room bathed in a flickering light. It felt eerily familiar, a crossroads like the one outside her childhood home, the scent of decay mingling with stagnant air. In the center lay a twisted table, heavy with items that seemed to shimmer under the glow, a doll with missing limbs, a cracked mirror, and a tattered book bound in leather skin. "Welcome to your choice," the voice echoed around her. It swirled and danced, beckoning. "Each item holds a piece of the puzzle and a price." Confusion flooded Alice's mind as she approached the table. Her fingers brushed against the mirror, a chill wrapping around her, and suddenly images sparked back to life, the memories she had tried to bury. Childhood fears, lost friendships, friendships that tumbled into betrayals. Faces of people she loved, those she'd left behind in the quest for a normal life. "Will you give them up?" the voice taunted. "What will it be, Alice?" Trembling, she drew back her hand, the weight of the decision crashing down on her like an avalanche. Could she face the consequences of such sacrifices? The shadows whispered, conspirators in her fear. Was she ready to pay any price to save her son? Each heartbeat echoed her heart's answer, yes. As she deliberated, she could feel the ground beneath her beginning to fracture, the darkness hungry for her resolution. The moment stretched, each second laden with the weight of her choice. And then, a small voice broke through the suffocating dread, a soft, familiar call. "Mom?" Alice's heart leaped. Sam was near, somewhere in the twisted maze of shadows. Fueled by a mix of dread and hope, she forced herself to look away from the table. "Sam! I'm coming for you." But as she turned, a cold hand gripped her wrist, firm and possessive. The shadows tightened around them, a sinister laughter rippling through the air. The voice returned, more insistent than before. "Every choice, Alice, remember every choice." Her pulse hammered. Would she be able to navigate the path ahead? The darkness was closing in again, a predatory force ready to swallow her whole. What lay ahead? Would she discover the horrifying truth that would tear her apart, or would it lead her to her son? The voice lingered in her ear, twisting her resolve. "The shadows await, Alice. Are you ready to lose it all?" The cold grip on Alice's wrist tightened, sending shivers racing through her body. The shadows swirled hungrily, and she felt herself being pulled toward the table, the items beckoning like dark temptations. "Let go!" she screamed, summoning every ounce of strength to wrench free. The hand resisted, the fingers like iron clamps, and panic flared anew. "Why fight it, Alice?" the voice cooed, smooth and silken. "This is your chance, a way to end your suffering. This is your choice. Let me go," she snarled, forcing her heart to steady. Memories of Sam flickered like strobe lights in her mind, his laughter, their shared adventures, the warmth of his small hand in hers. She couldn't lose him. Not like this. With a shuddering breath, she focused on the table, its items shimmering under the flickering light. The cracked mirror stood out, its surface swirling like a pool of ink. Surely, it held answers. Releasing her grip on panic, she grounded herself. "What's your game?" she asked, her voice defiant, slicing through the tension. "You think you can break me?" The shadows recoiled, the laughter faltering. "Break you? No, dear Alice. I seek to make you whole again. With one touch, you may retrieve that which is lost. One small sacrifice, and your son will be returned." "Sacrifice?" Her voice trembled as doubt surged. The words echoed in her mind like a bell tolling in a dark cathedral. "What do you want?" Only what you are willing to give. The corners of the room darkened, shadows stretching ominously. Alice felt her resolve tremble. You're lying. I'll never give in. Ah, but the heart knows its desires. The mirror will show you the truth. The voice was insistent, seductive. Alice stepped closer, drawn to the surface of the mirror like a moth to a flame. As she peered into it, the reflections twisted. It showed her not just herself, but a dark version of her life. She saw moments where she had turned away from friends, where laughter turned to silence, where anger had replaced forgiveness. Voices chimed in her head, people she had failed, people who had trusted her, faces that blurred in despair. I've moved on, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Moved on? The voice radiated amusement. You abandoned them. And they still linger on the edge of your reality, waiting for a resolution. Can you face your failures, Alice? Can you accept the price you must pay? A chill seeped deep into her bones. Sam's voice called out again from a distance, confused and scared. Mom? No! She screamed, tearing her gaze away from the dark surface. The grip on her wrist slackened, and she sprang back, heart racing, breaths heaving, nearly colliding with the table's toxic offerings. She felt the shadows pulsating around her, the darkness closing in again. Time warped as she struggled to regain control over her thoughts. You're running out of time, Alice, the voice hissed, the shadows crawling toward where she stood. Will you choose to retrieve your son or continue to be tormented by the ghosts of your past? The clock is ticking, she stumbled back, the option stretching before her like a yawning chasm. What would she sacrifice? The laughter of the shadows grew louder, their anticipation palpable. Alice's heart thundered in her chest as the walls of reality began to pulse and collapse around her. Would she grasp the mirror, confront her past, or would she plunge deeper into the darkness, chasing after her son? Each second felt like an eternity. She could hear Sam again. Mom! His voice was desperate, and with every call, the shadows murmured, urging her to act. Would the truth ruin her? Or would it save them both? Driven by what felt like instinct, Alice grasped for the mirror's edge. Don't! The shadows roared, but it was too late. She was already tilting it toward herself, drawn into a spiral of unending darkness. And in that moment, she saw a flash of her fate. Her choices bled together, turning into a terrifying tapestry of loss and fear. Would it end in fire or redemption? The darkness smirked. Welcome to your reckoning, Alice. What awaited her on the other side? Would the truth only deepen the shadows, or would it lead her back to Sam? Alice felt the mirror pull her in, wrapping her in shadows thicker than any night. The world around her twisted, colors melting together until they became an indistinguishable blur. She gasped, her breaths shallow and uneven. Fear closed around her like a fist. The comforting warmth of reality slipped through her fingers like sand. She was floating in a void, weightless yet heavy with dread. Faces flickered in the darkness, eyes wide with longing, disappointment, and was it anger? Unspoken words hung in the air like fog, thick and oppressive. Alice, a whisper broke through the chaos, slicing through her mounting panic. She recognized the voice. Sam. Her heart clenched painfully, a dagger of love and sorrow. Sam. She cried out, desperation staining her words. Where are you? Mom. His voice echoed, closer this time, laced with fear. Each cry rendered her more frantic, as shadows swirled around her, coiling in anticipation. Face your past, Alice, the familiar voice taunted, now everywhere around her, yet nowhere at all. Your darkness lies ahead. What will you do to step into the light? Suddenly, the darkness shifted, and she was standing in a familiar room. It was an old, decrepit version of her childhood home. Dust danced in the faint light filtering through grimy windows. Old photographs hung on the walls, faces she had forsaken, lost loves and painful memories. As she walked through the room, specters of her past came alive, her friends, family, people she had wronged. They stood silent, their expressions a mix of hurt and disappointment. A schoolmate stepped forward, eyes glistening with unshed tears. "You left us, Alice. You chose the easy way out. I had to move on," she shouted, frustration boiling her blood. "You don't understand." "Understand?" Another ghost, a former friend, sneered. "You ripped us apart, choosing yourself over everything we shared. Now what will you sacrifice?" The shadows closed in, pressing around her. Each whisper spread like a painful echo, magnifying her regrets. It squeezed her throat, making it hard to breathe. She staggered, fighting against the wave of guilt washing over her. "No, I can't be here. I want tea." Bursting through the throng of memories, Alice stumbled towards the door, desperate to escape. But as she reached for the handle, the specter's hands shot out, fingers clawing at her. "You cannot run from what you owe," they shrieked in unison. Beneath the onslaught of voices, she felt the grip of darkness tighten again, pulling at her arms, her legs. "Sam!" she screamed, as flashes of his innocent smile flooded her mind. Suddenly, everything around her shattered and abrupt silence fell. The specters dissolved into particles of light, leaving Alice alone in the void once more. "You choose to abandon your son too?" The voice cooed slyly, mocking her heartache. A single ray of light pierced through the darkness, emanating from the direction Sam's voice had come from. She squinted against the blinding brilliance. Would it lead her back to him or deeper into the shadows? "Your choice, dear Alice," the disembodied voice chuckled. "What will you give to reclaim what you lost?" The walls of her reality fluttered and trembled, swirling like a portal, each heartbeat amplifying her sense of urgency. What was the price? Could she really face it? Would the truth set her son free or utterly consume her? Alice stepped toward the light, a deep breath filling her lungs. "I will do anything," she cried. But would the shadows let her go? As the darkness writhed around her like a beast enraged, a chilling laugh filled the air. Then let the price be named. What sacrifice would the darkness demand from her? And would she be brave enough to pay it? The light ahead pulsed like a heartbeat, inviting yet terrifying. Each step Alice took felt like a leap into an abyss, the shadows turning to tendrils, grasping and curling back, trying to snatch her away. She could hear her racing heartbeat echoing in the silence, a constant reminder of what she had to lose. "Sam!" She cried out again, each syllable a plea, a promise to return. With bulging eyes, she strained against the grip of the lurking void, forcing herself forward. The light beckoned, brighter and hotter, and as she drew closer, she realized it wasn't merely illumination, it was a warmth, a presence. Was Sam really there? Before she could reach it, the shadows frothed around her feet, rising like phantoms clawing at her ankles. "You think you can escape?" The voice taunted, now deep and sinister. What a price to pay! As she gripped the edge of sanity, memories crashed over her like waves, her family's laughter, Sam's first words, those childhood days spent in joyous abandon. But they quickly twisted into horrors, the shouts of her father, the silence that fell after her mother left, the isolation she cloaked herself in. Alice endless echoes whispered, "You owe us more than you're willing to pay." She shook her head, trying to drown out the disembodied voices, each word like a nail driving deeper into her psyche. Clenching her fists, she surged forward into the light. Expectation and dread twisted in her belly, and she felt the familiar warmth of tears pricking her eyes, but there was no time for pain. Suddenly, she stumbled blind into the blinding brightness, pressed forward by an unseen force. The world shifted. The laughter faded, replaced with the hollow echo of her own gasping breath. She found herself standing not in the sickly warmth of forgotten memories but in the middle of a stark, white room filled with mirrors. Panic gripped her throat as she darted from one reflective surface to the next, catching glimpses of herself, each image more distorted than the last. One window showed her a wild-eyed creature with tangled hair, hissing her name. Another reflected a calmer version, eyes clear and voice steady, saying, "You have the power, Alice." "What power?" she shouted, facing her reflection. "What can I do here?" "Face it." The wild version snarled. "Face the truth of your abandonment. Accept it and be free." Alice stepped back, the weight of that challenge crashing down hard. Each image seemed to mock her, displaying the lives she had touched with her decisions, each more tragic than the last. Is that who she truly was? Then, the point of no return came. A single mirror glowed differently, a soft blue light glowing from its center here. The looming darkness seemed to pause, holding its breath. She could almost see Sam in that reflection, something flickering behind those fragile walls. "Help me," the vision seemed to plead, "I'm in danger." No. Alice felt the pull surge anew, sobs bursting from her, a mixture of longing, guilt, and terror. "I want to repeat my mistakes." Suddenly, the haunting faces began to reappear around her, a chorus of voices demanding her attention. "Will you sacrifice yourself?" they hollered, each sound merging into a deafening wave. "Will you finally confront the pain?" The mirrors began to shake, rapidly multiplying. Shadows seeped into the light, contagious, poisoning everything around. Her heart raced as the whispers mowed her down like blades. "What are you willing to give to save your son?" Alice's breath thundered in her chest like a drum. She raised her chin defiantly. "Anything." The mirrors shattered in an explosion of glass and screams, darkness cascading toward her like a tidal wave. Would she be consumed by the very thing she dreaded, or would she finally claim the courage she had denied herself for so long? As the shards of reality fell around her, a chilling voice cried out, "Let us see if you can handle that price." What would the darkness claim to satisfy its hunger? And would Alice survive the scar of sacrifice? Alice felt the breath of the darkness on her neck as fragments of betrayal and regret coiled inside her heart like vipers. Each sharp piece of shattered glass reflected the phantoms of her past. The haunting faces demanded answers she couldn't bear to confront. But there was no turning back. She had invoked the shadows, and now they whispered their dark offerings. "What price will you pay?" they urged, voices smooth as silk, yet laced with danger that shook her bones. Suddenly, a rush of warmth surged through her, exhilarating and terrifying at once. The memory of Sam's laughter echoed through her mind like a lifeline, the spark of hope lighting a fire in the depths of nearly extinguished despair. "I will do whatever it takes to save him," she cried, her voice ringing clear even amid the encroaching darkness. The shadows shifted, and a sudden stillness fell over the cacophony. Then came the voice, sibilant and chilling, curling around her spine. "Very well, Alice. To reclaim your son, you must face your truth." The shimmering blue light flooded her vision, bathing her in its brilliance. In its glow, she saw her reflection, not merely her exterior, but the raw, battered soul underneath. The dark version snarled back at her, the face twisted with anger. "Face what you've run from. You want him back? Make your sacrifice." With a shuddering breath, Alice pressed her palm against the cool surface of the glowing mirror. "No more running," she shouted. Light and darkness collided inside her heart, a violent storm of love and loss. The mirror shivered, tremors shooting through the air, and suddenly images flared up like fireworks: her mother's abandoned embrace, childhood friends left behind in the desperate pursuit of a quieter life. Each face bore the weight of pain she chose to ignore. The reflections warped and twisted around her, clutching at her with skeletal hands. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she recognized the truth: her sacrifices hadn't shielded anyone. They had only built walls between her and the people she loved. "I'm sorry." The words clawed their way from her throat, wrenching with a weight that felt almost unbearable. "I never wanted to hurt you." The sincerity echoed against the glass walls, reaching into the dark corners where her remorse dwelled. "Will you finally lean into the darkness and accept it?" The voice taunted, glistening with a mix of malice and allure. "I will," she shouted, her resolution blooming with fierce energy. "I accept my past. I choose to embrace it." With that declaration, the world around her exploded not in chaos, but in a blinding array of light. The shadows retreated, clawed hands snatching back into the dark corners of her heart. The air shifted, filled with warmth as her tears crystallized into droplets that shimmered like stars, sacrifices transformed into healing. Each pain, each friendship she had neglected, unspooled in vibrant colors, twirling around her, enveloping her in love, loss, and acceptance. As she embraced it all, a powerful charge surged through her veins, igniting an adrenaline-laced clarity. Suddenly, the light crystallized into a single path, golden and stunning. And at the end of it, in the brilliant embrace of illumination, stood Sam, vulnerable, yet alive, his sweet smile illuminating the shadows that had attempted to consume them both. "Mom!" he shouted, arms stretched wide in a gesture of hope. "Sam!" Alice's heart soared, and she dashed toward him, breaking through the final barrier that had held her captive. The moment their hands clasped, a thunderous pulse of warmth surged through them, as if the universe cheered with joy. Everything around them shimmered and contracted, the darkness evaporating like morning fog. Her heart raced, each beat synchronized with the laughter of her son, precious and pure. In that moment of profound connection, Alice learned the ultimate truth: the heaviest price was not sacrificed, it was the burden of fear. She released the fear of confronting the shadows within and without. The mirrored shards melted away, flaring into stardust, illuminating their path as they stepped into a world free from ghosts. "We're together now, buddy," Alice whispered, wrapping her arms around him, warmth enveloping them like a cocoon. But echoes of the shadows lingered, a reminder of the darkness they had defied. "You've won this round," a voice snarled as the last traces of sinister laughter faded into the ether. "But we're always watching." Alice tightened her grip on Sam, determination sparking in her heart. "Let them watch," she said fiercely. "We're stronger together. I'll protect you from the shadows." And they turned toward the light, fear simmering beneath the surface but hope blazing a relentless trail ahead. She took a deep breath, filled with the energy that ignited a fire within her soul, for every choice she made now came from courage rather than fear. As they stepped out together into a new dawn, Alice realized the shadows would always exist, but together they could face whatever darkness life threw their way. "Ready for our next adventure?" she asked, a smile breaking through the weight of the past. "More than ever." Sam beamed, his joy a beacon lighting up her heart. And with that, they ventured forward, hand in hand, into a world where the shadows had no power over them anymore, where their hearts now glowed with the light of truth and love. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Your support matters. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. We want to hear from you. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.